Welcome. We're starting off a lecture series that the first lecture is entitled, Is It the End of the World? Now this is an interesting subject. This is a topic which is discussed at all levels of society and has been the question laid in front of many people as long as we can go back in history. Is it the end of the world? Well, obviously not. That's the obvious statement. Everything has taken so long to get where we are here, millions and millions of years. It's not going to end just like that. Well, before we get into the lecture series, and it's going to be quite a long lecture series, and we're going to go through a whole bunch of information. Before we do that, I just want to give you a little bit of background about myself, and then it might give you some insight as to why I travel and speak as I do, giving insight into the deceptions which are currently so vividly marketed in the world. My name is Mark Woodman. I was born in 1975 in Johannesburg to a family of four, my parents and myself and my sister. And we were born into a family of devout Christian heritage. When I say devout Christians, we were dedicated to the church. I was born into the New Apostolic Church. That's not a charismatic church. It's a very reverent church, and it's a church that believes that it is the bride of Christ. Also having worship services that are reverent, filled with music, and very closely associated to the Word of God. Now, when I was born into this church, I got involved in all aspects of the church, and I was music coordinator, if you like. I was involved. I was choir master, and I was orchestra leader. I was youth leader for a while. I was involved in all different types of it. I was a deacon, a subdeacon, and I was on my way to become a priest. And we would go to service regularly. We would have 3 full communion services a week. And Monday evening would be this, Tuesday evening would be choir, Thursday evening would be orchestra, Friday evening would be youth, Saturday would be something, Sunday would be something. So the church absorbed all aspects of our lives. We were heavily involved in the church. And around, I'd say, the end of 2001, 2002, the beginning somewhere around there, we started to ask some questions. Myself and my wife, we'd had some questions which were troubling us, and as we were asking the various people around us, we weren't able to get the answers that we were looking for. And with the New Apostolic Church, it's got a hierarchical structure where you go higher and higher and higher in the organization to get more and more difficult questions answered. The higher we went, the more we realized that the answers were not founded on anything that made sense, and we decided, well, we were looking for God. We wanted to know who God was. One of the questions which I asked was, who is God? How do I know that God is Jesus Christ? How do you know that God is Jesus Christ? Is Jesus a God, or is he the God? You see, I didn't know at the stage, and I asked these questions, and they said, well, it doesn't matter, just believe. And that wasn't good enough for me. And that's why the very next lecture after this one is entitled, Who is God? Because I've done that study, and I've found out who God is. Anyway, after having asked these questions, my wife and I decided that we were going to leave the church because we were looking for God. And we wanted to find the truth, and we thought that the only way to do that would be to remove ourselves from the system, and thereby we could objectively look into Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, Sokagayism, Jainism, all of them next to each other, and make objective decisions. So we looked into all these religions, and we saw you've got Allah, you've got Brahma, you've got Krishna, you've got Vishnu, you've got Sokagaya, you've got Shiva, you've got Jesus, you've got the Maitreya of the New Age movement, you've got the cosmic Christ. And all of these guys are claiming to be God. So who is God? Who is he? And how do you know who God is? Are they all the same thing? When I was speaking to Hindus who were involved in meditation, which we were also doing at the time, and they would say God is they've got various aspects of God, and I'd say, but is it the same God as the Muslims? Yes, it's the same God as the Muslims. I said, well, show me, prove it to me. And this is what we were looking for. My wife and I were looking for the truth. And when we left the church, because my family has got quite a high profile in our church, I wrote them a letter because it came as quite a shock. To leave the New Apostolic Church is a very big thing, especially when you've got a high-profile family. And I wrote my family a letter trying to explain to them what we were doing. I said to them, Leaving the church was like rowing out to sea with only a small rowing boat and 2 oars. The boat represented our honest desire to find the truth. The oars represented our questions. Our questions would direct us while our desire for truth would keep us afloat. And this was where we set out on. This is the journey that we set out on. We had 2 things in mind. We wanted to find the truth. And while we were busy with that, we wanted to help people. We feel that that's a requirement of mankind, is to help your neighbor. Do unto your neighbor as you would like done unto yourself. And that was what we were looking for. And then, not knowingly at the time, my wife and I walked into the New Age movement. We only realized we were in the New Age movement once we had left the New Age movement. But we didn't realize that turning our back on the church, we were actually turning our back on Jesus Christ. Because for us, that was one and the same thing. But it's a very big difference between Jesus and his church, a huge difference which we understand today. But at the time when we turned our back on Christ, I said, on the church, I said, finished with all this Christ stuff, and we walked out. And we started on a journey of spiritual and mental enlightenment. We started on this journey of trying to find out more about what's known as the metaphysical realm. When I speak about metaphysical, I say we're born into a physical world. We are physical beings. You can feel we're physical beings. And the metaphysical side of it is this non-physical, spiritual, esoteric side. And that's what intrigued us because of the immortality of the soul that the New Apostolic Church believes in, that your soul doesn't go to heaven, it goes somewhere else. On the basis of this, I wanted to find out, where does the soul go and how does this work? And is there some interaction that we could have after death? Anyway, I started reading self-help books. That was my line of interest. I wanted to help myself to create wealth, success, and affluence and influence so that I could, the more money I had, the more I could give. That was the idea. That's one of the ideas given in the New Age movement, also on affluence. The more you have, the more you can give. So it's a selfish selflessness, if you like. Anyway, on this journey, my wife and I met many, amazingly, what's seen as enlightened people. These people are the gurus of the world. We were striving after wealth and influence and affluence. And on this journey, I decided I would go and study under the big names in the world. The big names like Anthony Robbins and John Kehoe from Mind Power, this person that's come up with this idea of being able to create your future through the power of your mind. And Edward de Bono, lateral thinking, being able to think around your problems. And I wrote this book, Personal Purpose, which was published and, well, self-published and then put into all the exclusive bookstores nationwide throughout South Africa. And I took this message of personal purpose into the world as the foundation of the belief system which I was then marketing, on how to find your life purpose and create this affluence for yourself. Not only physical affluence, but also just joy and this overall contentment in life which people seem to be lacking. And I believe that personal purpose was the answer. I went off and I spent time with people like John Kehoe. Here you can see an image of him as he greets the prisoners in South Africa. This is where we were working in the prisons. And one of the things that's well marketed in the New Age movement or in the self-help industry is that you've got to take the success recipes from some of these leading figures. Like Richard Branson, or if you want to be a rock star, you choose your rock star, and you find out how they've done it. And if you want to have the same success in your life, you have to apply the same success recipes. So studying under Anthony Robbins and these people, I realized I could absorb their success recipes into my life. But it couldn't be some airy, fairy, philosophical type of thing. I had to base it in solid business principles as well. So I went I spent time with Cyril Ramaphosa, listening to the man, studying his career. If you don't know who he is, he's one of the biggest South African businessmen. He's also, I believe, will be running for the new presidential election now in the next couple of months. Chris Stoltz, I also spent time with, finding out how he got into the position of being able to run the Reserve Bank in South Africa for so many years during South Africa's darkest years, the apartheid era. And I understood that if I could find out what these guys had done to get where they were, I could apply that same idea into my life and I could create the same success. It's like a bread recipe. If I've got the same oven as you, the same wheat as you, the same milk as you, the same whatever as you, and I have the same temperatures, I will get the same result. Well, that's the idea. Anyway, it doesn't work like that, but that's the idea that I thought at the time. And then I went all the way to the top of these organizations, all the way to the biggest in the world motivational speaker is Anthony Robbins, and then I'd go to the biggest person regarding mind power, who's John Keogh, and I'd always try and get to the highest, most influential people to see how they did it. And one of the guys who was my mentors at the time was Richard Branson, and here you can see Sir Richard Branson signing my book in one of the occasions when we spent some time together with him, and also a very good friend of mine, Grant Shuttleworth, who's the brother of Mark Shuttleworth, and you might know him from the African space heritage, where he was the first African in space. I got involved in these circles so that I could absorb these things and I could create this wealth for myself. I had a problem though. I didn't tell anybody about it. My wife knew, but we were battling financially. And I knew that through the power of my mind, my affirmations and my meditations, I would be able to create this success for myself. So I just carried on pushing and pushing and pushing. Anyway, I took this story of personal purpose out into the world, into primary schools, into high schools. Here you can see a high school, and there's a primary school. You can see all the little people, where I was teaching them this idea about personal purpose, this self-fulfillment and self-enlightenment through self-content. Everything was about self and being able to achieve this through the power of self as well. I was invited to speak at the South African Reserve Bank to about 300 or 400, I can't remember, of their management, their top-level management, and to bring across this message of personal purpose, how it can change and influence your life. Not only that, I received a call from the Africa Woman in Leadership Summit in 2005. And I was quite surprised to receive a call from the Africa Woman in Leadership Summit, because they invited me as a male to speak and to explain to the woman what the challenges are from a man's perspective with this the idea of women coming into the workplace. But I hadn't gone for this type of opportunity. It came to me. And I realized that through the power of my mind, I was creating the success. Things were starting to finally move ahead, and I was able to create these type of events where I could share this message about personal purpose. Anyway, I spoke there, and I also spoke at the MTN Science Center in Cape Town. But quietly back at home, there was a problem. I still didn't have much income. In fact, the more effort I was putting in, the less income I had. I didn't understand it. My wife and I discussed it, and she was trying on her side to assist where she could. She's not a business type person, so she got involved in what she enjoys, and that's healing. Where I was getting involved in the esoteric side of the New Age movement and slowly migrating towards the occult, my wife was getting deeper and deeper involved in the esoteric type healing methods, crystal healings and angel cards, etc., which I'll explain to you a little bit later in this lecture, but also in the lecture entitled The New Age Movement. Anyway, the more effort we were putting in, and the more effort I was putting in, sometimes up to 21 hours a day, the less income I had, and I couldn't understand it. I didn't realize at the time that there was a hand that was blocking my success, and if I had been successful, I don't believe I would be doing these lectures today. I don't believe I would be speaking to you about God and being able to do the very next lecture and show you how God showed himself to be God. And I'm not talking about some airy-fairy, read this and just believe. I'm talking about science, mathematics that proves who God is. I'll show you that in the next lecture. Anyway, I was doing everything right. This is what I believed. I was doing absolutely everything right. I was meeting the right people. I was involved with the right people. I was absorbing the right information. I was reading the right books. I was spending time with the right people. But yet there was a problem. Somehow, I just could not get a financial breakthrough. I didn't know what the problem was. And now I realize that not everything that seems bad at the time comes from Satan. And not everything that seems good at the time comes from God. See, this is sometimes the Lord has to put a blockage in your life to make you look for other options. The options I was looking for at the time were, I wanted to find the truth, and I wanted to help others. And the way to help others is to become affluent and make lots of money that you can really share this around. Anyway, finding the truth was a problem because I had turned my back on Christ, and I was out into Buddhism and Hinduism and all these other religions, but going up into what I didn't realize at the time was the esoteric circles of these religions. Because each religion has got two levels, one hidden inside and one exposed for the outside. And I show all of these ideas through the rest of my lectures. That's all available in these lectures. Anyway, my wife got involved in crystal healing and energy healing, which is supposedly when you are able to channel healing energy through you to be able to release people from their illnesses. I didn't only do it on people, channeling that is, I also did it for animals. My wife and I were quite heavily involved in that. My wife more than myself, in crystal healings and energy healings. We got involved in angels as well because we realized that the angels are such an untapped power in the world. These angels are a method by which God can communicate with us. This universal energy can communicate with us. These were the ideas that I was being taught at the time. And being involved in angels, we also got involved in tarot cards and this idea that the angels will help you predict your future. Anyway, now when I look back, I realize that the one thing that they don't tell you is that there's two sets of angels. One that stayed in heaven with God, and another set of angels that fell out of heaven and landed on earth called demons. They've just changed their focus. They were angels, they're now demons, but they masquerade as angels of light. The Bible explains all of this, and I go into this detail in the later lectures. While we were involved in these esoteric things, I had a problem that I had no finances, and my wife had a problem. She had lower back pain. So we decided to go to a woman that I would now recognize as the White Witch, Debbie, down in Bredasdorp in the southern area of the Cape of South Africa, almost right at the tip. And this woman, she also did these channeling things on us. She was a guru, as you would like to call it. And she realized that this blockage which I had and my wife had was such a serious blockage that she had to call in the big guns. She was also working with angels, and she called in angels bigger and more mighty. She even called in Michael at one time. He's not the real Michael, not the biblical Michael. These are all liars. These are deceptions. And then eventually she said, well, I can't get rid of your blockage. I'm going to have to call in the biggest of all the angels, and that his name is Metatron. Now, I'll show you in the lectures, later on in the lectures, who Metatron is, but I'll tell you now who it is, and I'll prove it to you in a later lecture. Metatron is an alias for Lucifer. That's how you can identify which side of these angels you're working with. Are you working with God's angels or Satan's angels? We didn't know that we were busy with Satan's angels at the time because they lie just like Satan does. And they make you sick and they make you healthy. This is why people think that this channeling is such a wonderful thing. Not even Satan could help relieve us from our blockages. Amazingly enough, there's only one power greater than Satan in the universe, and that's God. And if he blocks your channels, boy, you ain't going to get anything to unblock it unless it comes straight from the hand of God. And that's what happened. Even Metatron couldn't unblock these channels and release me from my financial burden. So I decided, well, if he can't, I'll get involved in reincarnation, because this idea would help me understand as you reincarnated in every lifetime, you'd be able to find out what the problems were in your previous lifetimes. Now this is, just stop for a moment and think about it. This is man trying to solve man's problems. I didn't know who God was. I was asking who God was. I was saying, I want to find the truth and I want to help people. And now I was getting involved in the occult. I was getting so involved in the angels and in the sort of satanic things that not only were they not able to help me, but I had to go past them into the even darker things to find out what was happening. And from reincarnation, when my answers wouldn't come through reincarnation and through hypnosis, I went into transpersonal hypnotherapy. Now that is the idea that not only do you die and come back, but that's when you die and you go somewhere, your soul goes somewhere, and where it goes, you can trace it and you can listen to the conversations that were had there before you come back into your body. These are deceptions from Satan himself. But I had no other answers. I was searching for the truth. Please, if you wonder why I'm speaking about hypnosis or angels, all these things, I'm not telling you this to get you involved in it or to encourage you. I'm warning you that I've been there, and you don't want to have to go there. You do not want to have to go there. Let somebody like me who's come out of that guide you towards this truth. It's only Jesus that can help you. That's who God is. And I'll show you how He showed me. In the next lecture, I'll prove that He is God. Anyway, after having been involved in all of these things in this transpersonal hypnotherapy where you open your mind and you don't know what influences are impacting on your mind, when I got out of this, not even that was able to unblock my financial challenges. And this time I was getting almost desperate. And in discussion between myself and my wife, we made the decision that Christ was no longer needed in our life. In fact, I would almost use the word hated Him, because He was deceiving so many millions and millions of people worldwide to believe in this one stupid book called the Bible. And we didn't want anything to do with that, because look at my bookshelf. I've got hundreds of these wonderful, enlightened books. And you want to come and tell me now that I must believe in one little book and everything's in there? Don't be stupid. And once my wife and I realized, boom, this Christ thing is a big fad, and He's actually just one of the other gods. And we decided to de-associate ourselves from anything to do with Christ. In fact, my wife and I were going to change our will, that if we were to die, neither my parents or my wife's parents were able to bury us out of any Christian church or association. That's how much we hated Christ. As we made that decision, boom, the doors went open. Not financially yet, but I was pushed into a corner with Nolene, who the South Africans would recognize as South Africa's Oprah. She runs a talk show on TV, national TV, called SABC 3 Talk. And there I was pushed into a corner, and I started to discuss with her all these esoteric things and how the metaphysical world works and your personal purpose, etc., etc. And she got so excited about it, she took my book, which I gave her a copy of my book. And a couple of weeks later, she phoned me and she said, I want to do a whole show called Finding and Living Your Life Purpose. Would you please come and be one of the guests on our show? And I thought, wow, man, this mind power stuff really works. These affirmations, wow, they really, really work. Finally, I was starting to recognize that this channeling this energy into the future actually really works. Those of you that are involved in the New Age will hear my language, that I'm speaking very New Age language to speak to those that understand what I'm speaking about. Well, it's from there that God called us out. This deep, deep deception of Satan, we were called out. Anyway, Nolene invited myself onto TV, and I went on TV. And as I was ushered on stage, as you can see from this image, I was put in the middle. Now, if you understand what that means, on television, nothing happens by chance. Everything's planned. So, sitting in the middle, you automatically realize that you are the man in the middle. You're the guy in charge. And I look to my right and I see, well, here's Marlon, a friend of mine he's a friend now. He's a Christian. And on my left is the lady that runs the Metaphysical Institute of South Africa. Now, you might not think that to be amazing, but from my perspective, I had created, through the power of my mind, this opportunity to be on stage. Just as it happens, I get lumbered with a stupid Christian. And I get together with somebody who's more enlightened than the Christian, who's involved in this non-physical, metaphysical world. And I realized, wow, I must be the bridge. I'm the gate between these people, these esoterics, and these Christians. I must build a bridge. That's my role. And I had created this opportunity through the power of my mind. Anyway, not only did I have a Christian next to me on stage, which was frustrating, the very first phone call I ever get on national television, guess who phones me? A Christian. And Michelle, she phones from Durban, she says, excuse me, Nolene, I don't quite understand all this purpose stuff that you guys are speaking about. She says, my Bible says that we are created in the image of the Creator, and we are created for the purpose of the pleasure of the Creator, and she quotes text after text after text after text. I thought to myself, wow, you are so deceived. My Bible says everything's my Bible. And I thought, man, I'm going to tear you to pieces. I thought all of this silently inside myself while outwardly having this composure. And then the camera panned across, so we went to an ad break. I can't remember. And I said, Nolene, I want to answer this one. Nolene, give me this one. And when we came back from the ad break or whatever happened, camera panned to Nolene and she said, Mark, you wanted to say something? And the camera came on me. I said, yes, I would like to answer Michelle. Michelle, think about this for a moment. And I just want to pull up the handbrake on this lecture, and I want to just tell you something. Sometimes the New Agers know more about the Bible than you know yourself. Sometimes they will be able to use your information to twist your information around so subtly that it'll confuse you right to the core. So I drop the handbrake now. I say, Michelle, just consider this for a moment. You say, my Bible says that we are created in the image of the Creator. I said, think about this for a moment. And I want to ask you this now as well, if you're watching this DVD. If you are created in the image of a teacup, what would you be? Well, you'd be a teacup. So if you are created in the image of the Creator, what would you be? Well, you'd be the Creator, wouldn't you? Therefore, and I said on national TV, as you can see by this image, I am the Creator. Through the power of my mind, I've been able to create this situation. I'm now sitting on national TV, being able to tell you about what I've done through the power of self, my own power. I've been able to create this opportunity. I'm the Creator. You are the Creator. I didn't realize at the time that this is pantheism. See, this is God in each of us. This is the idea that God is in me, God is in you, God is in the chair, God is in the camera, God is in the clouds, God is in the trees. This is pantheism. It comes from ancient times, from the days when Midas touched everything and it turned to gold, who worshipped the god Pan. Anyway, I'll get into that in later lecture as well. Here on national TV, subtly I tell her I'm the Creator. And interestingly enough, I turned it around, I said to her, excuse me, just think about the Garden of Eden for a moment. And I'm asking you now to think about the Garden of Eden. What happened there? There were 3 lies. First, Satan said to Eve, did God really say that? Is he so horrible that he's not letting you eat of all the trees? Is he hiding something from you? So he creates doubt. The second thing Satan did in the Garden of Eden, he says, you won't die. God's lying to you. You won't die. And then he puts in a third lie, and that's when he twists the thing into his own direction. He says, not only will you not die, you'll become as gods. So on national TV, I said to her, are you sure you've read your Bible properly? 1, I created an insecurity. Then I said, are we created in the image of the Creator? If we were, what would we be? And then number 3, I put in my own doctrine. I said, we are created in the image of the Creator, therefore we are the Creator. And I pray somehow that that lady, Michelle from Durban, will be able to get these DVDs and be able to realize that the Lord has called me out of this deception. You see, even on national TV, where I had the arrogance to say that I was the Creator, when I went home, I still couldn't put petrol in my car. The more effort I was putting in, the less income I had. There was a blockage in my life that not even Metatron himself could release. Something was going on. And yet, as I was battling with this, how do I overcome this problem, and discussing it with my wife, and she's helping with crystal healings and trying to unblock my channels, and we're asking the angels for help, and we're meditating and all these rubbish things. Yet, as all of this is going on and we're battling to find food at home, Career Success magazine launches this article. They say, who wants to be a millionaire? And then they refer to Mark Woodman. I laugh every time I see this thing. Actually, it's very sad. And that's the problem. You don't know what you're reading because you don't know what's going on under the surface. That's why there's only one God. Because there's only one individual in the universe that can see under the surface. And can see into your thoughts, can see into your emotions, into the pain that's in your heart at the moment. There's only one person, and that's God. And yeah, outwardly I was wearing suits on national TV, and I was this big meneer. I was the creator of the universe. I was the creator of my own little universe. And yet, I had nothing, and career success looks outwardly and they say, would you like to be a millionaire? Well, ask Mark Woodman how it's done. I mean, this is pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. And then came a day when I had to start wondering what's really going on. If you had been with Richard Branson and with the Shuttleworth family, if you had been with Anthony Robbins and Chris Stoltz and Cyril Ramaphosa and all the big names around the world, if you were studying Alan Cohen and Deepak Chopra and all of these, Dr. Wayne Dyer and all of these names, trying to absorb their understanding, reading Napoleon Hill about Think and Grow Rich and how to think and create this, if you're doing absolutely everything right, and yet you still have not a little bit of success, zilch, nada, nothing, then you've got to wonder to yourself, what's going on? Somewhere there must be a blockage, and this blockage is bigger than what I can deal with on my own. And about 3:30 one Saturday morning, I got out of bed, and I was crying bitterly. I'd gone to bed that evening before with my wife, and I was very worried because there was no food for that Saturday morning. Nobody knew this. Nobody knew this. And I woke up, well, I didn't actually sleep. I was rolling around the whole night, and 3:30 I decided, no, I'm going to get up. I walked down the passage, it was cold, and I went to go and sit in the lounge. All the lights were off, and I sat on the bench, and I thought about it. And I'm going to bring up this graphic that you can see. This is my success summary. After 2 or more years of working at the top level, this was my success summary. I was 4 months behind on my car repayments. I was 5 months behind on my bond repayments. I was a year behind on my electricity repayments. I had absolutely no medical aid. There was no income into our home at all, and my wife was 8 months pregnant. Can you imagine the trouble I was in? I'm the creator. I can create the success for myself. And yet, I'm sitting in the dark, a year behind on the electricity, 4 months behind on my car, 5 months behind on my bond, and I got no medical aid, and my wife is 8 months pregnant. Now, the reason I was crying and I had this emotional trauma was, and those of you that have experienced this, husbands, you'll know what I'm talking about, and wives, you'll know especially, is when you're pregnant, you don't need food, you need nourishment. You don't want bread and milk, you need nourishment for the baby. And I didn't even have an egg, I didn't even have milk, I didn't even have bread. There was nothing in our fridge. And I didn't know what we were going to have for breakfast that morning. And I don't know what we had for breakfast, but we had breakfast. But what happened there is I sat down on this bench and I realized I had done everything that I could in my power. I had done everything. Another email wouldn't have made a difference. Another letter wouldn't have made a difference. Another phone call wouldn't have made a difference. I had done everything. If I'd done so much and had nothing, then I knew that it wasn't going to happen. And that morning, 3:30, that Saturday morning, I climbed off the bench and I fell on my knees. And I knelt down and I realized that if I wasn't able to create any success out of everything that I'd done, then there must be a higher power in the universe that can help me. But I was tired. I was absolutely exhausted from years of trying to keep this image that everything's going fine. I was absolutely exhausted, and I fell down on my knees. I didn't know how to pray anymore. I said, hello? You see, it's not how you pray that matters. It's that you pray that matters. And I knelt down. I said, hello? I don't know who you are. I don't actually care who you are. I don't care if you are Allah or Shiva or Brahma or Vishnu or Krishna or Soccer Gaia or Jesus or Lucifer or who. I actually don't care. I'm tired. But I want one of you to come through. I know there must be one of you that's more powerful than all the others. And I have done everything that I can in my power to create the success, and it's not working. Today, I'm giving everything I have over to you. I don't know who you are, but I want you to identify yourself and I want you to help me. Show me how to get out of this mess. There's no breakfast. Well, I got up off the floor and I sat back on the couch and I looked around me because I was expecting the doors to blow open and lightning to come shooting through the door and frazzle me and throw me into the corner. And I sat back on the couch and there was just nothing. Absolute silence. And I thought, wow. Yeah, and I got bitter. I said, that's absolutely typical of you. The time that I really, really, really need you, this God person, whoever you are, the time that I say, please come and help me, you just drop me like a hot potato. I had nothing to give my wife, who's 8 months pregnant, for breakfast. Anyway, what happened was after that, I was expecting a physical realization of a spiritual manifestation. That's the problem. Today, the world wants in the physical world to realize what's happening in the spiritual world. That day, God's hand really came into my life, more powerfully than ever before. But it wasn't in the way that I thought it would be. God never does that. He lays His truth in front of you and He allows you to make your decision up. He's not going to drag you out of something so that you will now accept Him, that He's God. No, He won't do that. He'll lay the truth in front of you and He'll never take it away. He'll lay it there in front of you day after day after day. It's whether you accept it or not, that's the point. Remember, I was looking for the truth and I wanted to help people. That's all I wanted. And as I started to hear this call from the Lord, I heard Revelation 18. It said, I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. And I thought, what does this mean? What do you mean come out of? Come out of what? After that morning, certain miracles started to take place. I would go and check in the car to see if there's any money, maybe a 5 rand coin or something lying around that I could use to buy bread, and there'd be nothing. And then I'd go back in the house and I'd go back to the car just to make sure if I maybe skipped something somewhere, and I'd find a 20 rand note lying on the back seat. These little miracles started to happen. But it wasn't done under the duress of saying, I am God, and here's my proof, and I will now show you that you are going to live in accordance with. No, God doesn't work like that. He puts it softly in front of you. And this call started to eat away at my heart. Come out of what? What do you mean come out of her? Come out of what her? I realized also that Hebrews 4 verse 12 says, the word of God is a discerner of the thoughts and the intents of the heart. What was my intention? I wanted to find the truth and I wanted to help people. And here the Bible, this stupid book that I'd now opened for the first time after having used it as a car jack, I opened it and I read that God knows my thoughts. Can you imagine if He knew what I was thinking? Not only that, He knows the intents. Does He know that I want to do good? Wow, that's amazing. And then I read what Psalm 94 verse 11 says. It says, the Lord knoweth the thoughts of man. Wow, so He knows what's going on. And I started to study this, and I went through DVDs, just like the ones that you have got in front of you at the moment. I went through, somebody had given me a set of these DVDs, which I'd taken because he was a Christian. I took it for his sake, not to offend him, and I put them at the back. And in these DVDs was the truth which I'm laying out in this next 21 lectures. I'm going to lay out for you the same, but on a different angle, these truths which brought me out of this. Come out of her, my people, it says, this calling out of deception. You see, there's a problem in the world at the moment. There's a silent war on which is so well planned and so well executed that hardly anyone knows it's happening. It's a war on deception. It's a war that continues the war that started in heaven. Many people don't even know that there was war in heaven. Can you imagine war in heaven? Heaven is a beautiful place. Well, it wasn't. There was war in heaven. Read with me what it says. It says in Revelation 7 verse 7 to 9. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. What? You mean there's angels that are making as if they... Because it says he deceiveth the whole world. So I don't know if I'm dealing with the right set of angels. And I spoke to my wife. I said, you've got to stop this angel stuff. Until we know which angels we're dealing with, we've got to stop this. And I read about Michael fighting with his angels against the dragon. And who's Michael? And then I realized Michael, the word Michael means he who is what God is, the archangel, the messenger from on high, the only one that can fight Satan for the control of Moses' body. Who's the only one in the universe that can fight for control over a body is Jesus Christ. Michael being he who is what God is. Michael, Jesus fighting against the dragon, and the angels fighting, and boom, they fall out of heaven. And now this war continues on earth today, but it's a war of deception. And this war is so disgusting that today, just take as an example an ATM, an automatic teller machine where you go and draw money. You walk to the ATM, it looks like an ATM, you press the buttons, it sounds like an ATM, it feels like an ATM, everything looks right. You put your money, your card in, and when you want to withdraw your money, boom, you get taken. That's deception. And when people say to me, I'm not deceived, I say, well, that's exactly how deceived people think. That's how I didn't know I was deceived. You see, you don't know you're asleep until you wake up. You don't know, when you go to sleep after watching this DVD tonight, when you go to sleep, you won't know that you were asleep until you wake up. If it's 1 o'clock in the morning, then you say, oh, I fell asleep. Otherwise, you would never have a fatigue, an accident on a car because of fatigue, because the people would say, oh, I'm going to fall asleep. You don't know when you fall asleep. That's the problem with deception. You don't know when you're deceived until you come out of deception. And it's the media that is being used to destroy and to disseminate the lies into all mankind. Satan is trying to destroy the accuracy of the Bible. I remember reading this article from Guardian Unlimited where they say Jesus, he wasn't walking on water, he was walking on thin ice. This has now been proven supposedly. The scientists have proven that Jesus isn't really God. He couldn't walk on water, it was actually thin ice. Interesting that he was walking barefoot though. Must have been a bit cold. Fox News tells us that Jesus wasn't really God because Jesus had to ask Judas to betray him in order to fulfill prophecy. So he really wasn't truly God. Not only that, the Da Vinci Code, we've all heard about this Da Vinci Code. It says, well, Jesus wasn't really God because he had children with a prostitute. And those children are today the kings and the queens of the world, what's called the Merovingian bloodline, the bloodline of the monarchy. And then this other one that says, this creator isn't really the creator. He doesn't go boom and it exists. We've evolved from the apes. And this graphic down here is great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. See, this is the problem. My question was, because as the New Apostolic Church, we believed in evolution. We even had a statement saying that evolution fits into the creation story. Well, I've got a whole lecture on the creation versus evolution. It's called Sun versus Sun, the evolution debate. Have a look at it and then you'll see what I mean. This is a war about deception. And if you can destroy the accuracy of the Bible, then you destroy the authority of the Bible. And that's what Satan's trying to do. If I can get people to question Genesis 1 verse 1, in the beginning God created. No, in the beginning, that's not quite accurate. God used. If I can get them to question one area of the Bible. And I said to these theologians, I said to them, if Genesis 1 isn't accurate, then how do I know the virgin birth is valid? What about John the Baptist? Did he exist? Daniel in the lion's den? Noah's flood? How do I know what to believe and what not to believe? Did the apostles really do what they say they did? This is the problem. This is the problem. It's a war on accuracy, which is actually undermining the authority. And today, because of that, just like Zephaniah 3 verse 2 explains, the world doesn't obey, it doesn't receive correction, it doesn't trust, and it doesn't draw near to God. And Time magazine can put on this front of their cover, is God dead? They ask these questions, and today we just have to look back in history and see September 11th, this day that changed the world, a day that will be recognized forever as something cataclysmic that happened, which has forever changed the layout of how we see our fellow man. Not only that, we look around and we see new historic weather patterns that are taking place. We see Time magazine again saying the Bible and the apocalypse. Why more Americans are reading and talking about the end of the world. Here we go, the end of the world. Is it something real? Are we going to evolve into a new level of karma? Or is it really going to bomb? This can't be. Well, are we going to be going on a journey through these lectures? It's a 3-part journey. Firstly, I'm going to give you a biblical foundation, the first 4 lectures. Then I'm going to give you the background information, uncovering these deceptions, getting you to wake up. I'm going to walk over to your bed like you walk over to your child and say, wake up, wake up, wake up. We'll be doing that. And then we'll be taking all of this stuff and putting it in context. The first 4 lectures, biblical foundation. The next set of lectures, right up to number 17, is uncovering the background deceptions. And 18 to 22 is landing back on the Word of God and saying, right, how does all of this stuff that we've now recognized, how do we put it all into place? The question is it the end of the world? Does that thought or that idea even exist? We'll be continuing this and discussing it in part 2.